If you drive anywhere in the United States, February 2026 quietly changes the rules of the road in ways that can hit your wallet hard and linger for years. I'm Henry Charles, and what I'm about to share with you isn't about politics or scare tactics. This is about real laws, real money, and real consequences that most drivers have absolutely no idea are coming. Here's the part that should terrify you. You don't have to speed recklessly, drive drunk, or do anything extreme to get burned by these changes. Ordinary habits, things millions of drivers do every single day without thinking, are about to become very expensive mistakes. We're talking about tickets that show up weeks later in your mailbox, insurance premiums that jump overnight and stay high for years, registration renewals that get blocked, and even licenses that get suspended when you least expect it. Some of these rules are already being enforced quietly in certain states, while most drivers have no idea they exist. By February 2026, they expand aggressively, and once they're active, there's no warning period, no grace window, and no "I didn't know" excuse. These laws apply whether you drive every day, once a week, or just to run errands. And one of the rules I'll explain can cost you money even when your car isn't moving. That's not an exaggeration. That's exactly how enforcement is working right now. So stay with me, because understanding what's coming and how to protect yourself could save you thousands of dollars and years of financial stress. What makes these February 2026 driving law changes different from anything we've seen before isn't just the number of new rules, it's how they're being enforced and how unforgiving the system has become. In the past, most traffic laws relied heavily on police discretion. An officer might give you a warning, overlook something minor, or factor in context. That safety net is disappearing fast. The new wave of driving laws is built around automation, data sharing, and standardized penalties. Cameras don't use judgment. Databases don't forget. Insurance companies don't need a court conviction anymore to raise your rates. Everything is faster, quieter, and far more permanent than it used to be. A single mistake can now follow you for 3 to 5 years financially, even if you never see a courtroom and never speak to an officer face to face. Another major shift is coordination. For years, driving laws felt fragmented. One rule in one state, a different rule across the border. February 2026 marks a tipping point where many states are moving in the same direction at the same time. Distracted driving, automated enforcement, impaired driving thresholds, emissions compliance, reckless driving definitions. These aren't isolated experiments anymore. They're becoming national patterns. That means habits that felt normal or safe enough for years are suddenly out of date. And drivers who rely on old assumptions are the ones getting blindsided. The system is no longer designed to teach you through warnings. It's designed to penalize you immediately and consistently. There's also a financial reality most drivers underestimate. Modern traffic enforcement isn't just about the fine printed on the ticket. The real damage happens later. Insurance companies now track far more data than ever before, including violations that used to fly under the radar. Automated tickets, distracted driving citations, and certain civil violations can all trigger premium increases without adding a single point to your license. And once those increases hit, they don't quietly fade away. They stack over time. A few minor violations can cost more than a car repair, a vacation, or even a year of groceries. That's why these changes matter so much. Not because they're dramatic, but because they're quietly expensive. The first major change hitting drivers hard in February 2026 is the massive expansion of hands-free and distracted driving laws, and this is the one that's going to catch the most people off guard. A lot of drivers think this is old news. They hear hands-free law and assume it's already been handled, already enforced, already part of normal driving life. That assumption is exactly why so many people are about to get fined. What's happening now isn't just more states adopting these laws. It's a fundamental shift in how strict they are, how broadly they're defined, and how aggressively they're enforced. In the past, many states technically had hands-free laws, but the fines were low and enforcement was inconsistent. A first offense might cost $50 or $75, maybe $100 if the officer was strict. Annoying, yes, but not life-changing. That era is over. As these laws expand and tighten in February 2026, first-time offenses in many states are jumping into the $200 to $500 range. Second offenses climb even higher, often landing between $500 and $1,000, and that's before you factor in points on your license. Those points don't just disappear after you pay the ticket. They sit there quietly, raising your insurance risk profile and pushing your premiums up year after year. What really changes the game is what happens to repeat offenders. In several states, getting caught more than once with your phone in your hand can now trigger mandatory driver education courses that you have to pay for yourself, community service requirements that eat up your time, and in some cases, even temporary license suspension. Losing your license for 30, 60, or 90 days doesn't just mean inconvenience. For most people, it means missed work, lost income, childcare problems, and a domino effect of stress that goes far beyond the original ticket. And none of that includes the insurance consequences, which are often the most expensive part of all. Insurance companies are watching distracted driving violations very closely now. A single citation can raise your premiums by 15 to 30%, sometimes more, depending on your history and your provider. That doesn't sound catastrophic until you do the math. An extra $50 or $70 a month adds up fast. Over 3 to 5 years, that one moment of checking your phone can easily cost you $1,000 or more, sometimes several thousand. And unlike a fine, which you pay once and forget, insurance increases linger quietly in the background, draining money month after month. What surprises most drivers is how broad the definition of distracted driving has become. Under the expanded laws rolling out by February 2026, it's no longer just about texting while driving. Simply holding your phone in your hand can be enough. Even if you're stopped at a red light, even if your car isn't moving, even if you're just glancing at the screen for a second and not typing anything. If the engine is on and you're in the driver's seat, holding your phone can be a violation. Checking GPS by touching your phone, scrolling through notifications, holding the phone to your ear for a quick call, these are all treated the same way now. The law doesn't care about intent or duration, it cares about whether the phone was in your hand. Imagine this scenario because it's happening every day now. You're sitting at a red light during your morning commute, traffic is backed up, you're not moving, your phone buzzes in the cup holder, and you see it's a message from your boss or a family member. You pick it up for a second, just long enough to read the preview. You don't reply, you don't type, you don't even unlock the phone fully. A police officer nearby sees you holding it. That's it, that's the ticket. It doesn't matter that you were stopped. It doesn't matter that it was only a few seconds. Under the expanded rules, you were distracted and you pay the price. The safest way to protect yourself is to change habits completely, not partially. Mount your phone before you start driving and leave it there. Use voice commands for everything. Calls, texts, navigation, music. If something truly can't wait, pull over, put the car in park, and handle it safely. It might cost you a minute or two, but that's nothing compared to the financial hit of a distracted driving violation under the new rules. The second major change coming in February 2026 is automated enforcement, and this one is especially dangerous because it removes human judgment entirely. Speed cameras and red light cameras are exploding across the country, not just in big cities, but in suburbs, school zones, residential areas, and places where drivers never expected them before. In many places, speed cameras used to trigger only if you were going 10 or 11 miles an hour over the limit. That gave drivers a buffer, a little margin of error. That buffer is shrinking or disappearing altogether. By February 2026, some jurisdictions are ticketing drivers for going just 5 or 6 miles an hour over the limit. That means driving with the flow of traffic is no longer a safe assumption. If the speed limit says 35 and you're going 41, you can get a ticket mailed to your house weeks later, long after you've forgotten where you even were. Red light cameras are becoming even less forgiving. In the past, many systems allowed a brief grace period after the light turned red, designed to account for reaction time and vehicles already entering the intersection. That grace period is being reduced or eliminated in some areas. If any part of your vehicle crosses the stop line after the light turns red, even by a fraction of a second, the system records it. There's no explanation, no argument, no warning, just a photo, a timestamp, and a bill. These tickets aren't cheap. Red light camera fines can range from $75 on the low end to several hundred depending on the location. Speed camera tickets often start around $50 but escalate quickly for repeat violations. And while many of these are classified as civil violations and don't add points to your license, that doesn't mean they're harmless. Insurance companies increasingly factor them into risk assessments, and ignoring them is a serious mistake. Unpaid camera tickets can lead to late fees that double the original amount, collections agencies, damage to your credit score, and even suspension of your vehicle registration in some states. That means you legally can't drive your car until everything is paid and cleared. The most unsettling part of automated enforcement is how disconnected it feels. You don't get pulled over, you don't have a conversation, you don't get immediate feedback, you just get a letter weeks later telling you that you owe money. By the time it arrives, there's no changing what happened. The system already decided. The third major change arriving in February 2026 is one of the most serious shifts in driving law we've seen in decades, and it's going to catch a lot of responsible, well-intentioned people completely off guard. Several states are lowering their legal blood alcohol concentration limits and dramatically increasing penalties for impaired driving. For years, most drivers have operated under the same assumption. As long as you stay under a 0.08% BAC, you're legally okay. That mental rulebook is being rewritten. February 2026 marks the point where a growing number of states move toward a 0.05% limit, and others tighten enforcement so aggressively that even borderline cases are treated harshly. At first glance, the difference between 0.08 and 0.05 doesn't sound dramatic, but in real life, it's huge. For many people, a 0.05 BAC can happen after just 1 or 2 drinks, depending on body weight, metabolism, how quickly the drinks were consumed, and whether food was involved. What used to feel like a safe, socially normal choice, having a drink or 2 over dinner, now becomes a serious legal risk. The margin for error is essentially gone. You don't have to feel drunk. You don't have to feel impaired. You just have to blow a number slightly above the new threshold. The penalties tied to these lower limits are not gentle. First-time DUI offenses in states adopting stricter standards can come with fines starting around $1,000 and climbing quickly. Mandatory alcohol education programs are becoming standard, and those programs cost money and time. License suspensions can range from a few months to a full year, even for people with clean driving records. After a DUI, insurance premiums often double or even triple, and those increases can last 3 to 5 years. Over time, that can mean tens of thousands of dollars paid out simply for the privilege of staying insured. To understand how easily this can happen, picture a completely ordinary night. You go out to dinner with friends or family. You have 2 glasses of wine over a couple of hours. You eat a full meal. You feel fine. You're relaxed, alert, and confident you can drive the short distance home. On the way, you get pulled over for something minor, a broken taillight, a rolling stop, something you barely noticed. The officer smells alcohol and asks if you've been drinking. You're honest. You take a breath test and blow a 0.06. Under the old assumptions, that might have been the end of it. Under the new rules, that's a DUI. Your night ends in handcuffs or paperwork, and the next few years of your life get much more expensive. The safest advice under these new laws is also the simplest and the hardest for many people to accept. If you drink anything at all, don't drive. Not 1 drink, not 2, not I feel fine. Use a rideshare, call a friend, take public transportation, or stay where you are. Even if it's inconvenient, even if it costs money, a $30 ride home is nothing compared to the financial and emotional damage of a DUI. The 4th major change taking effect around February 2026 focuses on electric vehicles and emissions. As electric vehicles become more common, states are facing a funding problem. Gas taxes have traditionally paid for road maintenance, but EV drivers don't contribute to that system. The solution many states are implementing is new or increased registration fees, specifically for electric vehicles. In several states, EV owners are now paying annual fees ranging from $100 to $200 or more on top of regular registration costs. At the same time, emission standards for gas-powered vehicles are tightening in many regions. Vehicles that passed emissions tests for years may suddenly fail under the new standards. When that happens, registration renewals can be blocked until repairs are made. For older vehicles, those repairs can be expensive and sometimes not worth the cost compared to the value of the car. The 5th major change coming into force by February 2026 targets reckless driving and illegal street racing, and this one matters even if you've never raced a car in your life. The definition of reckless driving is expanding, and the penalties attached to it are becoming far more severe. In some states, if you're caught street racing or participating in certain reckless behaviors, your vehicle can be impounded immediately. That means it's towed on the spot. Getting it back can cost hundreds or even thousands of dollars in towing and storage fees alone. But the most important part of this change for everyday drivers is how broadly reckless driving is defined. You don't have to be racing another car to fall under these laws. Excessive speeding, aggressive lane changes, tailgating, weaving through traffic, rapid acceleration, hard braking, and driving in a way that shows disregard for safety can all qualify. A driver who is late for work, frustrated in traffic, or reacting emotionally to another driver can easily cross the line without realizing it. The 6th major change rolling out by February 2026 affects driver's license renewal. In several states, renewing your license is no longer as simple as filling out a form or clicking a few buttons online. States are expanding vision testing, written knowledge exams, and in some cases, road tests for license renewal once drivers reach a certain age, often 70 or 75. Failing one of these renewal requirements doesn't always mean losing your license permanently, but it can lead to restrictions that change daily life. The 7th and final major change taking effect around February 2026 is one that many drivers overlook because it doesn't look like a driving law at first glance. States are dramatically tightening registration enforcement, insurance verification, and digital compliance checks. By February 2026, many states are moving toward real-time verification systems that constantly cross-check your registration, insurance status, and compliance records against centralized databases. If something doesn't match, enforcement can happen almost immediately. When you step back and look at all 7 of these changes together, a clear pattern emerges. Driving laws in February 2026 aren't just about punishing extreme behavior, they're about tightening every part of the system. The good news is that none of these changes are impossible to live with. They require awareness, preparation, and a willingness to adjust habits that no longer fit the rules. February 2026 isn't about drivers suddenly becoming bad people or reckless overnight. It's about the system changing around them, and the drivers who stay informed, who adapt early, and who treat these rules seriously are the ones who protect their licenses, their finances, and their peace of mind. This is Henry Charles from US News 24, keeping you informed about the changes that matter to your wallet and your life.